بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد حتى لا يبقى من الصلاة شيء، وارحم سيدنا محمدا وآل سيدنا محمد حتى لا يبقى من الرحمة شيء، وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد حتى لا يبقى من البركة شيء، وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد حتى لا يبقى من السلام شيء. اللهم يا معلم آدم علمنا، ويا مفهم سليمان فهمنا، ويا موفق شعيبا وفقنا، ويا مؤدب سيدنا ومولانا محمدا أدبنا، ويا مفقه من أردت به خيرا فقهنا. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم، وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم، وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم، واجعلنا من الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه، وممن يخشى الله من عباده. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وبسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، والدعاء على الهدى والدلالة على الخير، ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to continue in our studies of the noble hadith, the traditions of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, after having blessed us to do so in the blessed month of Ramadan. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts from all of us our actions and overlooks our shortcomings. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we continue inshaAllah ta'ala. Naam. Naam. I believe this is where we reached, that which establishes accuracy. So in the book of the commentary of Sheikh Abdallah Sirajuddin rahimahullah ta'ala on the Bayquni poem in Ulum al-Hadith, the Hadith sciences. So the last session, the last class that we had, we discussed what it mean, or what the integrity of a narrator entails, or the adala. What does it mean with regards to the integrity of the narrator with regards to the acceptance of their reports, and this is the second thing that we discussed. Now, the first consideration with regards to a hadith being sound is, as we mentioned, ittisalu sanad is the continuity of the reports of the transmission all the way back to the narrator, and then being adala, the integrity of every narrator in that chain, And now we come to the third point, which is what? Which is that which establishes accuracy, i.e. the accuracy of the narrator. And we made this distinction. A person can be a person of integrity, but they may not be a person of dabt. They may be a pious person, but they may not be precise with regards to their knowledge. And just because a person has intellectual ability to be precise does not necessarily entail that they are pious as well. So both of these do not necessitate each other, i.e. both must be present in and of themselves for the tradition to be, for the report of that narrator to be considered to be sound. And this must hold true for every narrator in that chain. And this is obvious, this is known, that the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. The chain is only as strong as the weakest link. Um, and um, and this is the only consideration on which there is some leeway. Of all the five considerations for a hadith to be sound, for a hadith to be sahih, this is the only consideration on which there is some leeway. There is some leeway, such that if the person, because it is possible that a person is not at the highest level of accuracy, but yet their narrations are acceptable. It's not of the highest level of accuracy, but still acceptable. So in that case, the narrations, reports of that particular person would generally be categorized, so long as everything else is taken into consideration, as a general rule, be considered as Hasan. Whereas any other condition, if it were to be undermined, it would result in the narration becoming weak at the very least. So this is the only condition in which there is some leeway, i.e., if the person is not at the highest levels of accuracy, but still relatively reliable. Relatively reliable. A narrator, that which establishes accuracy. A narrator's accuracy, dhabt, is established when his narrations concur with those of reliable and proficient masters, al-thiqat al-muttaqin, al-mutqinin, al-thiqat al-mutqinin. Naam. So how do we establish the reliability of a narrator? Reliability of a narrator. This is established only by us being able to verify his reports with regards to the reports from others, especially others whose accuracy is known, and accuracy is known by at least one or two scholars of hadith, known, agreed upon scholars of hadith, specifically mentioned that such and such person is reliable. Fulanun thiqah, is trustworthy with regards to their narrations. At least one or two, then thereby we would know that they are reliable. So in case someone has not mentioned that explicitly that this person is reliable, then this person's, and we discussed this previously, that you have jahala, the obscurity, and the different levels of obscurity. Person might be mubham, i.e., we don't even know who that narrator is, or then we know he's ma'ruf, he's majhul al-ayn, i.e., we know his name, i.e., that there are reports of hadith, this person relating hadiths, but we don't know anything else about this person. So again, that will remain weak, because this person, we don't know anything about him. We don't know what level of narrations he has. And then you have ma'ruf, majhul al-wasf, majhul al-adala, where we know about this person, but and he's reported he has related multiple hadiths, not just one or two, multiple hadiths, but we don't know, we don't have much more than that. So we know this person, that there was this person, but we don't know much more than that. I.e., no one has verified him, so this majhul al-adala. This is then how do we verify this person? By cross-referencing his narrations, that which he narrates, against other narrations, and seeing if it holds up, and thereby one would know that this person is a reliable narrator. If it does so, if it concurs with other narrations of the same hadiths which this person relates, so thereby one would know that this person is reliable in his transmission. And there is detail with regards to this. Basically, the point being that the scholars have a systematic methodology of determining what level of accuracy a particular narrator is can be ascribed to. And also there are further details to this with regards to knowing that a person may have lost his books. This is possible. Subhanallah, there are cases where like people have lost their minds when they lost their books, i.e., their libraries were burnt. They have, uh, or their books were stolen, and they literally lost their minds, because for them this was their purpose of existence, that they lived for the sake of knowledge, and that for them, without that, it was impossible for them uh, to even just uh, like continue living without it. And there are cases where people, in their old age, their accuracy decreased. So all of these things have to be taken into account. Okay, at what level? What kind of a tradition is this? When has this been narrated? So there are different considerations, all of these things, and this will come into the next point below, the fifth one, which is illa qadiha. There's hidden defects in narrations. So all of these things, that the point being here, that everything is taken into consideration. Things that which would not even occur to us, have been taken into consideration with regards to evaluating hadith. Now, if there is an occasional contradiction, then this is overlooked. Now, i.e., within the realm of human error, then this is not necessarily considered to detract that person. However, if his narrations frequently contradict those of reliable narrators, thiqat, and rarely accord with them, then his accuracy is considered to be deficient, and his narrations cannot be used as proof. Naam. And this is from Imam al-Suyuti in Tadrib al-Rawi. As for anam, so this is briefly with regards to accuracy, with regards to dabt, precision. And then the next point, the fourth consideration, as for anomalies, shudud, is when someone who is reliable contravenes someone who is of a higher rank, i.e., again, this is an anomalous hadith which contravenes that which is of a higher rank, i.e., it does not, or it seems that it is in contradiction, i.e., the hadith in and of itself is related through a reliable chain, but it seems to contradict with that which is established with a greater degree of authenticity. It is established with greater degree of authenticity, and there seems to be no way to reconcile the two. Again, this is the realm of hadith interpretation. How, like, reconciling a hadith is the job is primarily like from the realm of the faqih. It's from the realm of understanding. And we mentioned that there are separate works dedicated to this, i.e., apparently problematic narrations, i.e., that they seem to contradict that which is known generally of religion. And these are known as mushkil al-hadith. Mushkil, i.e., they're difficult to understand, and scholars have specifically dedicated works to compile these hadith and explain them properly. explain them. So there are different ways to look at it. So a particular hadith might be specific as opposed to a general ruling. It might be based on the so specific based on the context as opposed to like for the example I think we gave previously. So for example, if I tell my child in the night go to sleep and in the morning wake up, so me saying go to sleep and wake up, there is no contradiction. Even though, and this is the problem which we have when we look at statements devoid of any context, or there is this hadith which says, so for example, my statement, go to sleep, and there is my statement which is wake up. Contradiction. No, it's not a contradiction. So there might be nasikh and mansukh. There is abrogated, that which is abrogated, and that which is abrogating. So a ruling might have changed. And there are many different reasons for this. There are many different reasons for this. And this is studied in Mushkil al-Hadith. This is a separate science of Hadith, which is known as Mushkil al-Hadith. And in cases where it is not clear how to reconcile between two apparently conflicting narrations, then we leave that which does not go along with that which we know generally of the religion, and we say, "Khalas, this is shadh. This hadith is shadh, and we are not able to see how this can be reconciled with the other hadith." And of the most famous works with regards to Mushkil al-Hadith is the work of Imam al-Tahawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, wa radiyallahu anhu, known as Mushkil al-Athar. Mushkil al-Athar of Imam al-Tahawi, which it's a big hadith collection in which he goes through these hadith which outwardly seem quote unquote difficult to interpret, and he explains this is what it actually means. This is what it actually means. So this is the Mushkil al-Athar of Imam al-Tahawi, rahimahullah ta'ala. But this is what shadh is. Shadh is something which does not go. It's a reliable chain. The transmission is reliable, but it does not seem to go with that which we know, that which is established of the religion, be it through other ahadith or through Quran or through ijma or through tawatur or through mass transmission. So thereby this hadith is left is saying this is shadh. This is shadh, and it's not clear how this is to be reconciled with that which is generally known. So that's the fourth condition. And the fifth condition, so a hadith shadh, even though the chain might seem reliable, khalas, it's not considered to be sahih. Why? Because of the apparent difficulty as it relates to the text. Now, a defect. Next, the last one is a hidden defect. A defect is that which detracts from the narrator's reputation. Illa qadiha. Now, that which detracts from the narrator's reputation. It does not necessarily need to be purely to do with the narrator's reputation. The actual text here, العلة قادحة وأما العلة القادحة فهي كإرسال في موصول. Now, it's not necessarily in the Wallahu Ta'ala Alam, in the Arabic, the book, it's not mentioned that it has to be necessarily to do with the narrator's reputation. If that were the case, then it would go into adala. It would go into adala, the narrator's piety. It can be generally. It can be a general characteristic which is not evident, but it compromises the report. It compromises the report. For example, so yeah, this narrator's reputation, yeah, maybe underline it and say this is not there in the Arabic. This is not there in the Arabic. Um, for example, describing something as a mursal hadith when which is otherwise connected chain of narration, when there is an otherwise connected chain of narration. So just by looking at the chain of narration, just by analyzing the chain, by examining the narrators, one may not be able to come across this issue, and this requires someone who is precise with their analyzing of hadith and knowledgeable with regards to the sciences of hadith, that they will be able to identify these kind of defects. So, for example, there are many scholars who are alive in my time, in our time now, but I have not met them. And there are many scholars who were alive in my lifetime and who have now returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I did not meet them. And so if I were to say that one of them, say for example, Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj, rahimahullah ta'ala, said something, it is possible that I could have met him, but I did not. Yeah. So when I say that he said something, I have not mentioned that I've heard him say. I heard him say, but I said he said. This is now there is no. I've not mentioned through whom I received this message or how I received this message from him or his statement. This may not necessarily be evident to someone, because it's possible, it's feasible that I had traveled to Mauritania and met the Sheikh, and he, whilst he was alive, and he mentioned something which I relate. But a person who's knowledgeable with regards to hadith narrators will know that such and such these people did not meet. Even though they were alive at the same time, they did not meet. And so on, and i.e., so there is a break in this chain. There is a break in this chain which would have otherwise not been evident. And one of the most common ways in which scholars met in the previous generations, even though it was well known that who traveled where and when and so on, and who did they meet, one of the common ways in which people met was at the pilgrimage, at Hajj. At Hajj, when people from all across the Ummah converge. So that would be a time of not only ibadah, worship, but also ilm, knowledge, that you get to sit at the feet of teachers, scholars from all across the world. And this is why they say Imam Malik radiallahu anhu never had to travel. He never had to leave Medina. He only went to Mecca for the pilgrimage, Hajj and Umrah. He never went anywhere else. Why? Everyone came to him. Everyone came to him in Medina. Yeah. So all of these things are considerations. For example, describe being something as mursal hadith, i.e., a tabi'i relating from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam without mentioning through whom he got it. When there is an otherwise connected chain of narration, or a hadith tradition mawquf, i.e., relating it as a statement of the companion, when it is actually from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when it is marfu' narration, all of which will be clarified in the section on the defective ahadith, mu'allal. All of these we'll come across them later, insha'Allah ta'ala. So these are the 5 conditions on the basis of which a hadith is deemed to be sound or authentic. Yeah, the first one being ittisalu sanad, the chain of narration is connected all the way to the one whose statement is being transmitted. By default, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then you have adala, trustworthiness or the piety of the narrators in question. And then you have their dabat, their precision in the transmission. And then you have that the chain is free from shudud, from anomalies. It's not anomalous, i.e. aberrant. It's so this is to do with the text which is being transmitted. Or the anomaly can be in reality in the text or in the chain. So, a narrator can make a mistake. A hadith from Abu Huraira. So say all 10 narrators narrate a hadith from, say there are 10 narrators who narrate a hadith from Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, and there's one more who the exact same chain, but narrates it from Sayyidina Abdallah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. So here it is evident that this person has mixed up who he is relating from. Why? Because everyone else narrates the exact same hadith from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Sayyidina Abi Huraira radiallahu anhu. But this person, through the exact same chain, narrates the hadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, whereas all the other narrators, they only narrated from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn from Abi Huraira. So it's clear that this person has mixed up. So the shudud, the anomaly, can be in the text or it can be in the chain. So all of these things later, inshallah ta'ala, we'll come to that later. But these are just giving you some idea with regards to all of these important aspects of the hadith, which we will discuss in detail later, inshaAllah ta'ala. So, shudud can be in the text or it can be in the chain. Anomaly, it can be in the text or it can be in the chain. And the defect that detracts, so then you have illa qadiha, a hidden defect in the report, not specifically necessarily to do with the narrator's reputation. So these are the five conditions for the soundness of hadith. Any questions? Any questions?
So, Ustaz, I've just got a question about the dabt.
Yes.
So you said that it's compared with reliable narrators, but how does someone decide if someone's a reliable narrator then? So if you understand what I mean, so you're comparing it with the reliable ones, but how is someone confirmed as reliable?
So first and foremost, if scholars of hadith who we know them, so this is excellent question. Generally, how do you know that a teacher is reliable? Generally, not necessarily to do with hadith. So I, as a person, I don't know anything. I want to learn about my religion. Okay. So how do I know who I can go to learn my religion?
You ask someone you trust for a reference.
Exactly. Yeah. So when hadith scholars who we trust, who we know, them as being reliable and trustworthy in the science of hadith, that they say fulanun thiqah, this person, thiqah meaning is khalas, his reports are considered to be acceptable completely. This is the first and foremost way. Fulanun thiqah wa rijaluhu thiqat. For this hadith, all of the narrators are thiqat. So this is the first and foremost criteria by which we know, okay, this person we understand to be reliable with regards to their piety and their precision. Khalas, they are good. And we will see that there are different levels amongst that as well. And now, for those whom we don't have this, so there are those for whom we have this fulanun thiqa. Now these become the yardstick their narrations become the yardstick for checking the narrations of others. So, for example, say there are three thiqat, there are three reliable, trustworthy narrators who relate a particular hadith, and this person whom we don't know about, who we know who that there is this person, but no one has necessarily said that this person is thiqa explicitly. His narration in that particular hadith it goes along with these three thiqa, and the other hadith he narrates, there are other five thiqa who relate this hadith as well. And this particular hadith goes with that as well. So you check all of his narrations against the narrations from reliable narrators. And thereby, you are now able to pass a judgment on this person with regards to his narrations. And also thereby now, on that basis, pass a ruling on his narrations, which may not necessarily have comparable narrations with the thiqat. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, so thereby, this is the science of analyzing the narrators. And this is a science which is a science in and of itself known as Jarh wa Ta'adil, the science of establishing the veracity of a narrator or identifying a defect in them, identifying defects in them. This is known as the science of Jarh wa Ta'adil. Jarh meaning to find defects, and Ta'adil to declare them to be udul, to declare a person to be sound with regards to their transmissions. So this is known as the science of Jarh wa Ta'adil. Now, so these are the general conditions on the basis of which you would determine the authenticity of a hadith. And like we mentioned, all of these things are the basically different levels of gray between black and white. There is no such thing. There's sahih. All sahih is just one broad stroke with which you say everything sahih is of the same level. Everything da'if is of the same level. Everything hasan is of the same level. No, like this is absolutely not the case. This is absolutely not the case. These are broad generalizations which allow us to deal that you have a simple framework, i.e., as a starting point to have a general methodology on the basis of which you're going to deal with things. That does not mean that you're oversimplifying the thing and dealing with all of them in the same manner. This is just the starting point. And again, it's not just purely to do with the label. It's not just purely to do with the label. As we're going to see, levels of Sahih, Maratib al-Sahih, the degrees of Sahih Hadith differ due to the qualities of integrity, accuracy, and other such qualities upon which Sahih Hadith depend. Those whose narrators have the highest levels of integrity, accuracy, and other qualities required for acceptance is more sound than those below it in level. So, for example, someone whose accuracy is 95 is not the same as someone whose accuracy is 90%, for example, as an example. So does that mean you categorize the one who's 90% as weak? No, not necessarily. Just as an example, that there are going to be different levels, and we mentioned that in reality, every hadith has a ruling in and of itself, i.e., it is unlike any other hadith. So basically, one level deeper, based on this, the scholars of hadith have categorized the levels of Sahih hadith with regard to soundness and preponderance as follows. The first level is what the two sheikhs al-Bukhari and Muslim have agreed upon in terms of its narration with its chain. This is called agreed upon muttafaqun alayh. Okay? Muttafaqun alayh meaning that which has been agreed upon by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim. Again, this is something which one needs to understand. A scholar of hadith will be very careful with regards to the words they use, because specific words mean specific things. So, for example, with regards to hadith which are narrated in this first category itself, with regards to hadith which are narrated by both Imam Bukhari and Muslim, there are four possibilities. There are four possibilities. So first one is that which is mentioned, muttafaqun alayh, i.e. the same hadith with the same narrator, with the same sahabi, for example, is related by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, i.e. so this is hadith muttafaqun alayh between the two sheikhs. Now, as far as, and again, the two sheikhs, shaykhan, as it relates to hadith, it means Imam Bukhari and Muslim. As it relates to hadith, it means Imam Bukhari and Muslim. As it relates to seerah, the biography of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it relates to Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhuma. Yes, and as it relates to fiqh, especially within the Hanafi madhab, who does it refer to? Who does it relate to? If you say shaykhan. So within the Hanafi madhab, there are three things. Scholars don't mention the names of the imams again and again and again. They have, naam. So no, it's wrong. It's not Imam Muhammad and Imam Abu Hanifa. So shaykhan is Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Abu Yusuf, Qadi Abu Yusuf. So he is the one. So Imam Muhammad, when he was the one who was in charge of documenting everything. So he would say, قال الشيخان, هذا قول الشيخان أو قول الشيخين, meaning the two sheikhs, i.e. Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Abu Yusuf. So in fiqh, shaykhan means in the Hanafi madhab, Abu Hanifa and Abu Yusuf. And within that itself, and then you have sahiban. Sahiban refers to Abu Yusuf and Muhammad. And then tarafan means Abu Hanifa and Muhammad. So each of these three the pairs, the shaykhan, the two sheikhs are Abu Hanifa and Abu Yusuf. Sahiban, the two companions, are Abu Yusuf and Muhammad. And Tarafan, the two sides, are Abu Hanifa and Muhammad radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. Naam. So again, like we mentioned, every science has its terminology, and every science has these terms which one must know what they mean. So here the two sheikhs, shaykhan in hadith is Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari and Muslim. So muttafaqun alayh, that both of them relate from the same sahabi, the same hadith. This is called muttafaqun alayh. This is considered to be the highest level of accuracy, authenticity. And then,
So sorry, does the isnad have to be the same in this for it to be muttafaqun alayh?
it does not necessarily seem so. It does not necessarily seem. And obviously, clearly the isnad will not be entirely the same, because
Yeah,
Imam Bukhari will relate
yeah,
from his chain. So that is not necessarily stipulated. Wallahu ta'ala alam as a condition. And Wallahu ta'ala alam, it would seem that if there is a different chain back to the same Sahabi, this would only result in increasing the accuracy of the narration, because each narration will corroborate the other. Yes?
yeah, yeah,
And if they are related, so an example for this muttafaqun alayh is إنما الأعمال بالنيات, the hadith of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu. It's related by both of them. Naam, both of the, no one else relates this hadith from the Sahaba other than Sayyidina Umar. Naam. Which is also something for people to remember when they talk, i.e. that hadith, this particular hadith is related only through Sayyidina Umar. Okay, we'll go to the discussion separately later, inshallah. So this is the first one, muttafaqun alayh. The second one being rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim. So if the hadith scholar, someone who's grounded in the science of hadith, instead of saying muttafaqun alayh, which is easier to say, they say rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim. I.e. this has been related by both Bukhari and Muslim, this hadith. Meaning what? That this is this hadith, i.e. this hadith is related by two different narrators. I.e. Bukhari relates it through one particular narrator, Rawi, and Imam Muslim relates it through another one. Naam. Do I have an so for example, Hadith Jibreel. Imam Muslim relates it through Sayyidina Umar. Imam Muslim narrates it to Sayyidina Umar, and Imam al-Nawawi in his 40 hadith brings forth this tradition. And he worked extensively on Sahih Muslim. He is the one whose commentary is considered to be the best commentary of Sahih Muslim, Imam al-Nawawi. But this hadith is related by Sayyidina Abi Huraira in Bukhari, Hadith Jibreel. So both of them, so they are Rawahul Bukhari wa Muslim, but the riwayah in Muslim is from Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, and riwayah in Bukhari, Sahih al-Bukhari, is from Sayyidina Abi Huraira. Naam. And this is evident in the hadith itself. بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله, whilst we were present with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I.e. it was not only Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, there are others also present. So this is the second category, second type of hadith, which is related by both Bukhari and Muslim. And the third one, Rawahul Bukhari wa Muslim wal lafdhu li fulan. So now, when the hadith scholar says, this is related by both Bukhari and Muslim, and the wording is for Muslim and relates the hadith, or the wording is for Bukhari and relates the hadith, meaning what? There is a slight difference in the wording which they have related. There is a slight difference in the wording related by both of them, regardless of what else difference is there or not there, whether there is a difference in the chain or in the Sahabi, notwithstanding, if there's a difference in the wording, if there's a difference in the text of the hadith, the matan of the hadith, and the hadith scholar who understands this will say, وَاللَّفْظُ لِفُلَانٍ وَالْعَفْظُ لِمُسْلِمٍ, or وَاللَّفْظُ لِبُخَارِ, meaning this particular wording is related from Bukhari, even though the same hadith with a slightly different wording is also present in Muslim. Meaning, so they will say, Rawahul Bukhari wa Muslim wal lafdhu lil Bukhari, or wal lafdhu lil Muslim, or lafdhu li Muslim. Naam. So for example, the hadith, um, لا يدخل الجنة قتات, the one who is the relation in Bukhari, and in Muslim لا يدخل الجنة نمام, i.e. the one who does namima, who carries tales, both of them almost exactly the same meaning, So if you say qatat, then you say wal-lafdhu lil-Bukhari. If you say nammam, then you say wal-lafdhu li-Muslim. And again, la yadkhulu, they will not enter, this person will not enter, i.e. This is understood as being not enter ma'al awwaleen, with those who enter Jannah first, i.e. that this person is worthy of being punished. Not that they will never enter, because this understanding is incorrect. A person who commits a sin is not mukhallad finnar, will not spend eternity in hellfire, even if it is taken to account, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us all. Now, this is not the case. So again, there are specific phrases which are used in the Sunnah that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used, and also used in the Quran, which need to be understood in the light of what is known generally with regards to the religion. Now, so this is the third scenario where there is a difference in the wording. So you say wal-lafdhu lil-Bukhari or wal-lafdhu li-Muslim. And the fourth scenario is that ورواه البخاري ومسلم وزاد فلان بكذا, i.e. both Bukhari and Muslim relate this, and Bukhari has this addition, or Muslim has this addition, وزاد فلان بكذا, i.e. that which it is same, this bit may be muttafaqun alayh, may be related from the same narrator, so it's muttafaqun alayh, it's possible. And then there is an addition which is present only in Muslim or only in Bukhari. So that bit is not muttafaqun alayh, is not agreed upon. So for example, Hadith Abi Huraira, إذا أحب الله عبدا نادى جبريل إني أحب فلانا فأحبه. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves a slave, so he calls out to Jibreel alayhi salam and says, love this person, for indeed I love him. So Jibreel alayhi salam loves him, and then Jibreel alayhi salam calls out to the denizens of the heavens, i.e. the angels, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves such and such person, so love him, and then they love him, and then this ثم يوضع له القبول في الأرض, and this person is accepted on earth as he is accepted in the heavens. And then there is an addition in the riwayah of Muslim, وإذا أبغض الله فلانا, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala detests a person. And similarly, as is related in the first bit with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loving a slave, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala detests a slave, this is ziyada fil Muslim, this is present only in Sahih Muslim, not in Bukhari. So again, all of these four are hadiths which are related both in Bukhari and Muslim, but there is a difference, as is seen, that which is muttafaqun alayh, they are exactly the same, from the same narrator, from the same companion, muttafaqun alayh. Rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim, meaning that they are related by different companions, but the statement which is being related is the same. And then you have Rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim wal lafdhu li fulan, i.e. there is a slight difference in the wording now, and then you mention whose wording you're mentioning, whose wording you're relating. Rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim wal lafdhu li fulan. And then finally the fourth one, if there is an addition which is not present in the other narration, then you say Rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim wa zada fulanun bikadha. So these are all four possibilities for hadith which are related by both Bukhari and Muslim. Yes, any questions? Any questions? Tamam, khairan inshallah. So the next one, the second level is what Bukhari alone narrates, i.e., man farada bihi al-Bukhari, i.e., those narrations which are present in Sahih al-Bukhari, but they're not present in Sahih Muslim. So first, as a general categorization, as we mentioned, the hadith, all of those four, which are present in both Bukhari and Muslim. Those hadith which are present in both Bukhari and Muslim, they are considered to be at the highest level of veracity and authenticity. The second level is that which is only present in Bukhari, Sahih al-Bukhari. The third level is what is only present in Sahih al-Muslim, Sahih Muslim. Okay? And the fourth level, الصحيح الذي جاء على شرطهما. The fourth level is that which is Sahih according to the conditions of al-Bukhari and Muslim, although not mentioned in their collections. Naam. Meaning what? According to their conditions is that the narrators in the chain are mentioned in the collections of Bukhari and Muslim, since they do not mention their conditions in their books or elsewhere. Meaning what? So there are Rijal of Bukhari, the narrators from whom Imam al-Bukhari relates from him all the way to the Sahaba. All of the Sahaba are Udul. There is no question about the Sahaba. From after the Sahaba, there are those from whom Imam Bukhari relates from, until it reaches him through his teachers, all of those whom he relates from. These are all in his Sahih, not in his other works. These are known as Rijal al-Bukhari. These are known as the narrators of Imam al-Bukhari, from whom he relates in his Sahih. And then you have Rijal of Muslim. Likewise, all those narrators from whom Imam Muslim narrates are from after the generation of the Sahaba through his teachers, everyone in between. And no doubt there is going to be a significant overlap as well between these two. So the Rijal of Imam al-Bukhari and Rijal of Imam Muslim, there is a significant overlap. So in this overlap between the narrators of Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim, that there are narrations which have been related from them, these narrators which are shared between Imam Bukhari and Muslim, i.e. they are known as Rijal al-Sahihain. They are known as Rijal al-Sahihain, meaning these are those whose narrations are in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So these Rijal al-Sahihain, there are other hadiths as well which have been related from them, which are not present in Bukhari and Muslim. Perhaps it missed them, which is one possibility. The other possibility is they left them out intentionally, potentially for hidden defects, which is one of those things which crops up in the analysis or the study of the Mustadrak of Imam Hakim al-Naysapuri, in which he compiled al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain, meaning, and we discussed what a Mustadrak means, i.e. these those hadith which are related by the narrators of Bukhari and Muslim, but they are not mentioned in either of the Sahih collections, these particular reports. So the two main reasons is, firstly, it may not have reached them. Their teachers may not have mentioned those narrations to them. Or secondly, both are possible. And the second one is that they left them out because of hidden defects. And this also is found in the Mustadrak of Imam Hakim. But the point being, if it is free from defects, if it satisfies all these conditions, then it will fall into this category, i.e. that which is agreed upon between both, those narrations which are related by the Rijal of Bukhari and Muslim, but they are not present in the Sahih, i.e. they are considered to be sound upon the conditions of Bukhari and Muslim, i.e. narrated by the narrators which they both agree upon as being sound narrators. So this is the fourth level. And the fifth level is what is sahih according to the conditions of Imam al-Bukhari alone. So like we mentioned, you have Rijal of Bukhari and Rijal of Muslim, and there is a significant overlap. And those of the narrators of Imam al-Bukhari, which Imam Muslim does not relate from, if hadiths are related by them alone, then this comes at the fifth level of sahih, according to the conditions of Imam al-Bukhari. And then you have the sixth level. The sixth level is what is sahih according to the conditions of Imam Muslim alone, similar to the previous level, previous category with regards to Imam al-Bukhari. And the seventh level is what is sahih according to the other noteworthy scholars, but not according to the conditions of Bukhari and Muslim. Naam. Now, as you can see the note, the footnote, it should be noted here that it is entirely possible for a hadith to be sahih, but not included in the sahih collections in the collections of al-Bukhari and Muslim. As for those who restrict sahih hadith to al-Bukhari and Muslim, this is a modern phenomenon which is not found in the books of the early scholars. And again, this is a lack of understanding. The lack of understanding. Why? Is it that now you're going to say like the only Sahih hadith are those which are related by Imam Bukhari and Muslim, and anything which did not reach them and they did not come across or they have not included in their works is not Sahih by default? What is the basis for this conclusion? What is the basis for this conclusion? Now, this is an oversimplification based on a lack of understanding, and also to bear in mind that this categorization of 7 is not is again an approximation. See, anyone who tries to relate their understanding to reality will realize that our understanding is but an attempt to try to make sense of reality. It is not reality in and of itself, but it is an attempt to understand reality, and as such it will always be to a certain degree approximation, be it a good approximation or less than that. So here, this one is also an approximation in the sense that not all, so for example, not all hadith in Bukhari are more authentic than all hadith in Sahih Muslim. And this should be evident for anyone who reflects on it for a moment. Is it possible that all hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari are greater in authenticity than all hadith in Sahih Muslim? No, this is not. As a general rule, yes. As has been analyzed and looked into by the scholars of hadith, as a general rule, yes. Generally, the hadiths in Sahih al-Bukhari are more stringent than the hadiths in Sahih Muslim. Does that mean that all of the hadith in Sahih Muslim are better than all of the hadith all of the hadith in Sahih Bukhari are greater in authenticity than all of the hadith in Sahih Muslim? No. So, for example, say University of Oxford and say University of Manchester. Generally, what is considered to be better?
Oxford.
But does that mean that every single student in the University of Oxford is better than every single student in the University of Manchester?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah. So similar. So again, so whenever we study something, we must try to understand that there is always nuance. Now, there's always nuance. Oh, I read in a book, this is what it says, so this is what it must be. Nah, there needs to be understanding. There needs to be understanding of, okay, this is what it is saying, but what does it mean in reality and how does it relate to reality? Yeah, so this categorization is an approximation. As you will understand, in generally speaking, every science where there is an attempt to systematize, to formalize an understanding of that science, there is going to be a certain degree of approximation in everything. Why? Because the reality does not fall into clear boxes of categories. Oh, this is like this. Oh, this is like that. Oh, this, or like the narrators of hadith were not born with labels when they are born. Oh, he's going to be someone who relates sahih hadith. Oh, he's going to be someone who relates hadith. No, it doesn't work like that. Yeah. Now, Hafiz al-Sakhawi said, rahimahullah ta'ala, something that is ordinarily lesser in rank can be given preference. For example, Muslim alone may narrate something which has various chains, bring it to the level of mass transmission, tawatur, yeah, or which make it well known to a high degree. Naam, shuhra, it becomes mashhur, and this mashhur is according to the mustalah of the muhaddithin, according to the hadith scholars. We have a different understanding of mashhur, a very different understanding of mashhur in the Hanafi madhab of and how we analyze hadith, which we will discuss later, inshaAllah ta'ala, which is very significant, and other scholars who stipulated sahih as a condition and their conditions likewise include this narration. This is stronger than that what Bukhari alone narrates, despite the source, the makhraj being single person. This is likewise true for what al-Bukhari alone narrates compared to what they both agree upon. Furthermore, this is true for any ordinarily lesser category compared to a higher level, so that when that tawatur or shuhra qawi and so on is joined into it, i.e., this categorization is a general approximation so that we get a general idea of things, a general idea. It's not meant to be the like an absolute yardstick on the basis of which you say any hadith you pick up in Sahih Muslim and any hadith you pick up in Sahih Bukhari and say the hadith in Sahih Bukhari is better than it. No, this is not the case at all. As he's making the case here, it might be a case that there are other hadiths which may be of a greater veracity. The advantage of having these various levels of soundness becomes evident when there is an apparent contradiction. Key word here, apparent, i.e., there cannot be a real contradiction. It's not possible that there can be a real contradiction. نعم. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. If this affair had been from anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would have found in it numerous contradictions. So a contradiction is not possible within the religion. It's not possible. It is possible that we may have contradicting reports, but it's not possible that there is an actual contradiction in religion. This is not possible. When there is an apparent contradiction where preference needs to be given to one over the other. Naam. And then we come to the, oh, okay, come on. Subhanallah, we are not making a lot of progress every week, but anyways, khairan inshallah ta'ala. So the next discussion is specifically with regards to having some understanding of both these Sahih collections, Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari and Sahih of Imam Muslim, rahimahullah ta'ala. And try and getting a general idea about these two hadith collections, which are considered to be the most sound and the most authentic hadith collections. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions?
No questions for myself.
تمام خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى. نعم خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى. Perhaps inshallah as we go along, possibly we might be able to progress at a better pace, because many of the topics, when they're mentioned for the first time, many concepts that are mentioned for the first time, they possibly require a certain amount of explanation. But inshallah ta'ala, that won't be the case as we go along, building on those concepts, inshallah ta'ala. So we will stop here, inshallah ta'ala, and continue bi'idhnillahi ta'ala next week, next Wednesday, inshallah ta'ala. تمام خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نجهل ولا ندرس، ومن أن ندرس ولا نعقل، ومن أن نعقل ولا نعمل، ومن أن نعمل ولا نقبل، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بك، ولا توفيق إلا منك. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا، وانفعنا بما علمتنا، وفقهنا إذا جهلنا، وارزقنا علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا خالصا لوجهك الكريم، وافتح علينا فتوح العارفين، والحقنا بعبادك الصالحين، واجعلنا من خدمة هذا الدين. وجزى الله عنا سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ما هو أهله. وجزاكم الله كل خير، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.